Like I said, these brush piles are bird habitat. I can see bluebirds, I think it is. And they're living in that material there. And when I come by, they were eating my grass seed, which I put down periodically. We want to establish grass on this hill so that we can let it go to seed and the birds can enjoy it as habitat while they're also in the pile itself. Now that pile itself serves as erosion control as well. By the way, I'm Justin Hitt from Prosperity Homestead. We help homesteaders get up and running at break even or better in 1 year or less. And we do it with running it like a business. And so if we cut down materials and burn those materials, we've transformed biomass into carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Now this pile will eventually compost or decompose, which will put carbon dioxide back in the atmosphere, and it'll also put methane in the atmosphere. And so there are some arguments for burning, but I'd rather have a controlled burn that was turning these materials into firewood so we can at least use the heat, or some of the brush materials into chunks that would be used for charcoal. Now, I did not go through and cut as much as I thought I would before the leaves started to go, but you'll see the branches and things could be cut for tree fodder and fed to the goats. And the goats will eat the pine fawns and the different types of other trees that are in there, oaks and such. And of course, bird habitat, so that we can have birds that eat mosquitoes and birds that eat, no, they eat seeds too, but they eat caterpillars and other stuff as well, so that we won't have problems in the garden. Plus, they're fun to look at. And I'm actually seeing turkey tail mushroom in there as well. I'm not going to walk down there, but there's turkey tail mushroom, middle of the frame there. Now, true, yeah, other rodents and, foxes might live in that brush. Other things will live in there, but as we cut it for firewood, and actually there's a couple logs in there that can make good beams, the materials will slowly go away, and I can replace them with a tree line, edge trees, put nitrogen fixing trees in there. Or I can cut a lot of these pines for poles. I see quite a few that got bumped when the excavators were here. I can cut those down and use them for poles, make a building, make shelters for animals. And then, of course, do the same thing. Cut the fronds off, provide them to the goats, lay the surplus down as a hedge or other type of habitat. Now, we don't have any hedges here. And that's something that we're definitely going to plant for windbreaks, because it's very windy, and plant for tree fodder, and plant for bird habitat. Do you see how this all works together? Can you see how this is a way to recycle and reuse, to regenerate, to produce, rather than to consume? Now, these logs will sit here for a while, so I won't necessarily be able to make mushroom logs. I should have done that as soon as they came down. There are some logs in there that might be good for firewood specifically, but logs for building materials. But most of it's brush. And as we work through the pile, that brush will continue to fall on the ground. And then it'll protect the soil so that plant seeds that have fallen in there can start growing. And of course, we can get that hedge through. You might notice by design, there is a road over there. And this is an access point across the entire property to the other property line. And then I'm standing on an earthworks terrace that's going to provide goat habitat or location for the goats. And this will eventually have grass and gets good sun in the season. It'll eventually have grass and corn and hemp and sun hemp and biomasses of different kinds, of which I can also plant down there in the road when the road's not being used. So in the wet season, the road is not used because it's not like a paved road. It doesn't have compaction in place. It's basically an access point for by foot or by ATV. And so even in the winter, we could grow down on the bottom cold tolerant plants to have additional biomass, additional habitat, additional results. That's why we're called Prosperity Homestead. Prosperity is an abundance far beyond your needs so that you can support and help your neighbors, so that you can teach, so that you can learn. A surplus so you'll have that horn of plenty. But it does require design, planning, and focus. Now, if you're watching this video right now and you've started a homestead, put "start it" in the comments below and I'll give you a free resource relating to starting a homestead. If you've already just got started. Now, if you haven't picked out land yet, I'll reference some videos. You just put "want to" or "want," and I'll give you a link to a video that is about getting started where you are. Now, if you want to break even or better on your homestead and you're looking at this as an agricultural operation, of course, you're going to be on agricultural land or you're going to have land zoned appropriately. You can use industrial or agricultural, depending on what you're doing. I hope to tour a site that is actually on industrial and they have above ground raised bed gardens. There's actually asphalt underneath them. And that's a very interesting setup that they've got going on there. They use rainwater to water everything. But if you're already started and you want to run an agricultural operation, a small farmer homestead, regional food, not necessarily massive crops, not necessarily it's all going to be built at one time. We're just running goats and ducks here. I've got a contract with somebody who's running pigs on their property. If you want to learn about that community development of whole quality food as food is intended to be, clean food, slow food, then put in the comments below homestead. Homestead. Now, if you really want to get results, you visit www.prosperityhomestead.org. Go to the contact page and just say homestead. And we're gathering up people in those three categories because it is a little bit different. If you don't have land yet, how do you find land? And then if you find land, how do you get started on it in case you find better land or you have a budget? Like most of us have a budget. We're not, even if you are independently wealthy with inflation, you're going to eventually be looking at Zimbabwe dollars. So if you spent all the money you got to get started, then you got nothing to keep it operating. And then if you're already operating, it doesn't matter whether you're struggling or you're just getting ideas of where the markets might be. I do have a background in business development, and one of the things that our marketing agency does is support eco-destinations, small farms and homesteads that are out there in the marketplace selling not necessarily to consumers. Oh, that sun's coming out. Look at this. I can feel that warmth. But the design matters. The design matters. When that sun comes out in the winter, that's a low sun in the winter. It clears this terrace and warms what will eventually be a hedge. And so if this terrace went out even further into the woods, it wouldn't do that. It wouldn't do that because of the angles and such. And that's why I'm going to live with the limitations of how much space I could terrace up here. Because if I end up with a hedge back there, it could be a hedge full of blackberries and gooseberry and all kinds of edible plants, which would also serve the wildlife, but will serve us as well. Then it needs to be designed this way for the terrain for the land. And maybe you made some mistakes in getting your farm set up or running, and now you can either avoid those mistakes or we can make adjustments accordingly. If I didn't connect that road over there, that property line is a road on the property line, with that trail on the other property line, then if I need to access from one end of the property to the other, I'd have to go all the way around this long and windy road. But again, there's a trail system on here that from the hardscape road. Okay, so that's the hardscape road. Within 200 feet of the hardscape road is a trail. And so I can literally run, I could park a trailer with a tank on it in the road and run 200 or 400 foot of hose. It would be going down slope, and I can water a paddock in there. I can water a paddock in here. Now, what do I mean by water? I can provide a water trough for goats who are going to help me clean out these woods. See, the low cost portable infrastructure has so many benefits, so much value. But a lot of folks, again, they get talked into these, building a 5,000 square foot house and building a barn and buying a tractor. And I know it looks exciting on YouTube, but there's a better way of doing this. There's a lot of nuances to worry about. So again, if you're already running a homestead, a small farm, maybe you inherited, maybe it's been in the family for a while, maybe you're struggling, you can contact us directly at www.prosperityhomestead.org. Go to the contact page, mention Homestead. Tell us a little bit about your story. If you're just got started, maybe you picked up a piece of land and you don't even have a house on it yet. You want to use it as a hunting property. You want to use it as a homestead as you retire, or you're thinking about starting, then put starting in the comments below and we'll get you some resources. And then finally, if you haven't got started and you've been dreaming about this, we're going to get you tools that you can start where you're at today, start building that skill set, even find the right piece of land. And so you can put in the comments below whatever I had said before. Now the wind's picking up. As majestic as I might want to sound, the chickens are telling me it's time to wrap it up because the wind is starting to blow and it's getting cold. Anyway, I want to see your comments below. I want to see if we're helping people. Is it worth doing what we're doing? These brush piles, instead of burning, these brush piles are bird habitat, wildlife habitat. They're, the last point, because you might have seen the targets in here. They're also funneling any coyotes, and you might have saw the video earlier, the coyotes were out. They're also funneling any coyotes down this course of fire and to a course of fire out that end. So in the event that we do have coyotes come in here, we just back up a little bit. The coyotes are going to come around here, and they're going to be fair game for somebody standing here protecting the goats. So again, it's a stacking of function far beyond what you might imagine. It's designed this way. This didn't happen randomly, and it ultimately gives us a lot of value. What do you think, chickens? You think folks are going to be inspired to get started? Yeah, you notice this, it's like 32 degrees outside and there's still grass growing. Anyway, I'm Justin Hitt, Prosperity Homestead, www.prosperityhomestead.org, where we have a free newsletter and a contact page if you want to ask personal questions related to your small farm, homestead, or estate, or even hunting lodge, family retreat. And then we'll help you get started and then break even or better. This is an agricultural operation. We are talking about breaking even, making money. Not necessarily in the first year you're going to make money, but at least break even. It can be done. Thanks for watching.